What's up, everybody? Welcome to the fifth episode of Boots, Banter, and Beyond, the stories of Irreverent Warriors, the show where stories about how humor and camaraderie have changed lives for the better. I am your host, Eric Schessel. Today on the show, we're going to be chatting with John Lambert, who is a U.S. Navy veteran and the owner of some of the most delicious coffee I've ever had, even though I'm not a coffee drinker, Absolute Berry Coffee Company. His company has been a sponsor of the Silky's Hike in Norwich for the past couple of years, donating delicious coffee as well to kick everybody off on the right foot at the start of the hike. So we're kind of get into his military service, get some stories from him, talk about coffee, and share some irreverent stories. Let's go. John, what's going on, man? Coffee,
hey,
man. Jonathan,
what's happening, Eric?
I
love the intro music. That stuff's great.
Appreciate that, man. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, it's Tuesday, right? It's Tuesday. Yep. Everything's going well. Just a long day, and now I'm glad we finally got something spinning. Glad we finally got to hook up and get this going.
Absolutely. I know we've had to do a couple of reschedules, and because life happens, it gets in the way of us doing the things, but real life is more important than everything else. So not a big deal, not a worry. I'm just glad that you're able to take some time and hang out with us today.
Yeah, so am I.
Right. So, all right. So you were Navy, right?
I was Navy. Yes. So
okay.
So my backstory was, so I graduated high school, and it seems like a long time ago. Graduated high school in 1992, and was not ready for college. Tried going to college, and I just partied too much and wasn't mature enough. Came back, did some work that was pretty much meaningless, and then was looking for work outside. So found an ad in the paper that said cable and linesman wanted, and the U.S. Navy was on the other side. And so I went in, took some tests, and they were like, oh, okay, it looks like you should take the NFQT, or the Nuclear Field Qualification Test, or whatever it stands for. So tested for that. They said, hey, you want to be a Navy nuke? I said, great. And then I ended up going into boot camp in December of 95. And then I got to do an entire week all over again because the federal government shut down in 1996. So that's part of the, so we got to shower and pretty much eat for an entire week. And then from boot camp, went to A school, then went to nuclear power school down in Orlando, Florida, then went to prototype up in Ballston Spa, New York, and then got to my first ship in September of 1997. So my first ship was the USS Philadelphia, stationed here in Groton, Connecticut. So,
nice.
and from there, did 20 years as a nuke mechanic on submarines. Did my entire time in Groton. It was just the way that things worked out. And so that's how I ended up getting into the Navy.
Nice. So you were in for just over 20 years. And so obviously you did the retirement thing and all that, but I'm pretty sure you've got some pretty funny, or maybe not so funny, stories over your career there. So you want to share one? You got something?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this the other day, because it was like, so you have these moments during your career where you realize not only was it funny, but you also inserted your foot in your mouth at the same exact time. And so for sub guys, maybe for surface guys, but so we go down when we do a bunch of overhaul on the boat. We take the boat down to the Bahamas, and there's an acoustic area down there where they go and they read different things on the boat. And so you run these routes past these giant listening devices. And so we're running one route, and then we're running another route. And then you hear this thing that you've never heard before, which over the 1MC, which is the general announcing circuit, which is emergency retrieve the array. So that's not a general order. That's not like, so we had a towed array out behind us. And so the moral of the story was we ended up hitting one of these arrays that are hanging in the water. Those arrays in the water are like, over $1.5 million a piece.
Oops.
And so, whenever you have an event like this, you have to get a JAG involved and everything else. So we pull into the Port of Canaveral. Divers go down there. They figure some stuff out, stuff like that. So they tell us, you guys are good to go underway. So we get to go underway, and what we ended up doing was on a 688i, you have these things on the front, and they kind of look like fins, and they come in and out. They're retractable bow planes, and we ended up hitting the array with it, and we cut it off, and it fell to the bottom of the ocean. But what we kind of found out later on was it was the array's operator's fault, not ours. So we're sitting in there, and we're in the wardroom, and we're getting ready to run drills, and I was part of the drill team. And we had this big screen up there, and it shows you where you were and what you were doing. The captain was there, and he'd been dragged over the coals for the past couple of days. And I'm just kind of sitting there waiting. I'm a first class, so I'm an E6. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, Captain, I just had a question. He kind of looked at me, and I was like, so where we hit the array, do we get like a little kill symbol or something like that? And I thought it was hilarious, right? But like when I looked around the rest of the room, I realized, oh, they didn't find that funny. And so the mass chief, who was Mass Chief Wells, who was the drill coordinator, he kind of just looked at me and he goes, maybe bad time.
So your ship's just got a little Buckeye on it or something.
Yeah, well, you can make these because we would go up there as engine supervisors to go plot. And so what they would do is they would teach us, like, there are certain symbols that you put for certain things. And one of them is kill, right? So if you hit something, you would hit the little button to tell them, like, hey, I killed that, right? So I thought it was funny. They didn't think it was too funny. So like, so the second story was I went back to the CO later on. I apologize. I was like, Cam, I'm sorry. It was just poor timing. And, he understood. So so second funny story was we pulled. So second deployment we did was to CENTCOM. And so we're pulling into Bahrain, and it's during Ramadan, and it's like 126. Anyone that's been in that area knows just how freaking hot it is, right? So we're pulling in, like, our air conditioning's busted, for all sorts of different reasons. And I'm trying to get that fixed because I own it. And so the next day, the meal was roast beef and French onion soup. Because the menu doesn't change, it just keeps rotating. So it's 126 degrees topside. We had a dumpster fire, like an actual dumpster fire with like cardboard in it. And people are like sweating, and you come down to eat, and they're like, today's lunch is roast beef and French onion soup. And I was just like, I hate all of you. Like, it's just like who? It's just the way that everything lined up. And you're just sitting there and you're so hungry, but you're just like, I can't. Like, so you just kind of figure your way out through it. But it's like you have those moments in time when you're looking at each other, you're sitting at the chief's table and you're looking at each other and you're like, French onion soup. The guy who owns, the mess division, the CSs, he's like, it's on a rotating schedule, man. There's nothing I can do about it. And I'm just, so those are kind of like, probably every branch has their stories of food that you're just like, I can't believe, why am I eating this right now? Yeah. So those were the two ones I kind of thought about that would be kind of funny. So
that is those are damn funny.
Yes.
Hopefully you had a ton of those and you didn't have too many sad stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily like I read, I read a little bit of your backstory and kind of understand what you went through. And I think, like, when you're submerged and you're doing stuff, it's a lot different than when, you're being, like, I've never been shot at. Right. So you have different things that occur to you that are funny and sad. It's just the way things are. So.
Absolutely. So for everybody that listens to this knows or is going to find out that you, along with your other half,
Lisa.
You guys are the owners of Absolute Bearing Coffee Company.
Yep, Absolute Bearing Coffee Company, Absolute Bearing Coffee, AbsoluteBearing.coffee. If you want to go to the website.
Well, I can help you out with that here. We got what do we got? Bam! What's that?
Nice. Awesome. Look at that. That's amazing.
So we're gonna unpack all this with how everything came to be. But, like, I guess the first one is, why coffee? What drew you to the whole coffee thing?
All right. So you really want to put this in perspective. So when I was 1990s, like the early 90s was when I lived on Long Island, and so New York City was literally hop, skip, and a jump. So like all of these nice restaurants that were using all sorts of different flavors and everything just starting to come online. So culinary is really starting to come online. And so Starbucks, right? So Starbucks was really starting to come online, Bean and Leaf, like coffee shops, stuff like that. And so I had never really drank coffee as like growing up. And then I got to a certain point and my brother had started to work in a coffee shop. And so I started trying out, like espresso drinks. I thought they were really, really good. The coffee never really took off after that until after I joined the Navy, right? So underway, you would get coffee in these like giant cans that was already ground. And so we nicknamed it. It had the name of the coffee. It's an old coffee name is Satavo. And we took the C off and put an S on the front so you can put the rest of it together in your mind of what we were calling it, because that's what it tasted like. So you just had to like dump tons of creamer and sugar into your coffee. And that's all you chose, like water and coffee. And that's what you drank. And so 2008, I went to a thermocam school up in Boston called Fleer Thermocam. People probably know Fleer. And there was a guy there that home roasted, and he had like a little Solus automatic, like espresso machine. And he had just home roasted some Colombian coffee. And he had said, if you guys just give me 50 cents for the coffee, no big deal, right? So I had the coffee. It was the sweetest, smoothest coffee I'd ever had. And I hadn't put anything in my cup. And so I was like hooked from that point onward of like, how do I create something like that? So we started on like a little popcorn popper. You can buy ones that are kind of more sophisticated now. Then we moved on to like a bigger machine. And I remember I was sitting on the deck and we were getting ready to go on deployment. And it's like midnight and I'm roasting coffee. And I'm like, I need to get a bigger machine, right? Because like I should be like asleep, next to my wife, asleep, getting ready to go on deployment. But no, I'm out on my deck in the middle of the winter roasting coffee. So we got back from that, and so then my wife, Lisa, what she would do is when we would do like mail drops, she would send coffee. Because what I would do is I'd vacuum seal a bunch of the stuff I roasted. So she would send me some of that or some other coffee that she had gone someplace with the kids and she had gotten some coffee there. And then when we'd pull into different ports, especially like Europe, just trying different coffees from different places. And it all, it just kind of all evolved from there. We moved on to building a barbecue grill that had a 6-pound coffee drum in it. We nicknamed it, so what it kind of looked like was a meth lab, because like you had a giant tent out in front of my house. There's smoke pouring out, right? So then we had to put sides on it to control the wind. And then, so like my neighbor who was on the North Dakota, he was the Webster, North Dakota. He pulled up one day and he's like, John, I was like, what? He goes, it looks like you're running a meth lab. And I was like, well, okay, but I'm roasting coffee and it's fine. And so from there when COVID first started, so the end of the world, so March 13th, right? Is when we bought our first production machine. Because we just decided that we needed more. It was very difficult with the wind and everything else to control temperature and to know where you were and everything else. So we decided that it was time to go buy a machine. And so we bought the machine. We moved from our house in Groton, right outside the sub base where we lived for 22 years, to where we are now, which is Mystic. Because as everyone knew, right, the world shut down. So I was work from home. My wife was work from home. Our 4 kids were all trying to go to school. My mom moved in. And we needed more room. So we moved to Mystic. And now we've got the Ambex production machine in here. And I think in May of that same year is when COVID was all happening. And I was like, well, if I totally screw this up, corporate will always take me back. Like we have a pretty good base of people because we were doing farmers markets at the time. And so we just decided we're just going to go. And so so I said goodbye to Electric Boat. And since then, we've been roasting coffee and selling wholesale and retail. So that's where that's how we got here.
Nice. And I've never really been a big coffee person. The military was as close as I really ever got to it.
Yeah.
But
then energy drinks came onto the scene, right? So
we were drinking Rip-Its out in the field and stuff, and it was like that's just what it was. Rip-It.
No, our big one on the sub base was I'd go out for the division. So when I made chief, and then the division I had on Annapolis, and I would go to the mini NEX and I would literally just go buy like bags of Monster, right? And it's like, remember when like the Monster, like the RPG version first came out? It was like this bazooka looking thing, right? So I would just go buy all this stuff. Later on during like a couple of years later, the guys were like, I don't know if that was the right idea. And I was like, we got the work done, right? Like, because you just got to the afternoon, you're like, I don't want any more coffee. I need something else. So right. So energy drinks. Yeah. Those things became the thing. So
what I remember, like our first intro to really like getting into coffee was, I don't know if you remember in MREs, they had the little coffee packs or whatever that you could take and you can mix them in your canteen or whatever, and you could heat them up with the heater pack from the MRE or some nonsense. Yeah. It was, but like we skipped the middleman with a lot of that stuff. We just took the packet, took the ground coffee, and just dip and just tucked it into our lip. And I've never done dip, but like seeing some of the guys doing that, it was like, hey, this is like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, just put it in your lip like dip, and you just swallow the juice because it's literally just brewing in your mouth. And I was like, I don't think that's how that works, but screw it, we're gonna let's go, let's do this.
You might as well. Like I can't. Like it's instant coffee, so it's Robusta, so it already has 3 times the amount of caffeine, right? I just can't imagine, like, because I dipped at different points in the Navy, right? I just can't imagine taking a huge limper of like Taster's Choice. Like if I had it, then maybe I would try it out, but I just, it just makes me like,
it was rough. I tell you what, though, it worked. Like you got that caffeine boost real quick.
Yeah.
So.
Because that's all you wanted, right? That's all, because you were doing something at some stupid time, right? And you're so tired, and you're like, I just have to keep moving. So as long as I stay caffeinated, I'll still keep moving. So
exactly, I'll sleep later. I got shit to do. Let's go. Let's get some coffee grounds and just see what happens.
Oh man, the things we did. It's a dry scooping pre-workout. You're just dry scooping like Taster's Choice.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine doing that. That would be so brutal. I'm going to the gym tomorrow, so I think I might do that. Just see what happens. So time for an experiment. I'm just going to take the scoop of pre-workout.
Have someone else do it. Don't do it to yourself. Get someone else to do it.
Well, but how else can I do like an honest review of it if somebody else has done it?
I just think it's I don't know. I wouldn't do it now. Like, no.
I'm fine. I'll be all right.
So, all right. So I will tell you. So like we had a wholesale account when we first got it. I was messing around with espresso. And so the owner called me one morning and she's like, hey, we're having some problems with the machine and extraction and everything like that. So literally from 6 o'clock until 11 o'clock, I did espresso shots. Right. And so I think I got up to 11 when I was like, I don't feel so good. And I remember Lisa looked at me. She's like, I turned white. And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I need to go to sleep. And so I don't know if you've ever, but I was so tired. Because my body was overloaded on caffeine, but you couldn't sleep because you're caffeinated, right? So you just kind of lay there in this in-between going, I'm really tired, but I can't sleep. And I want to go to sleep, but I can't. And so I realized like, so that's my most recent one where I just did way too much caffeine. Like, I was trying to figure out what the taste was. And then all of a sudden I was like, this is what happened. And I won't do that again. So I don't recommend it. So how about that? You can use me as the guinea pig. So.
All right. Okay. I won't do it then. I appreciate the safety concern. So all right. So now let's move on to all right. So why Absolute Bearing? So why did you pick that name for the coffee company? There's got to be something. There's got to be a story.
Coffee was always like so when you're I wasn't a Navi-T. I knew enough about navigation because you have to learn in order to get your warfare pin, right? And so you have different ways that you can determine where you're going. So absolute bearing, if you're driving off, north, so you use that as your point. Coffee was always kind of that, right? Like as I started to go through it, so I would bring the coffee underway, and I remember distinctly, like my watch section knew that I brought it, so the auxiliary electrician aft was the guy that would like ferry coffee around to all the different watch standers. They'd pour all their coffee out and I'd make the coffee, and it just made those 6 hours that we're standing watch that much more bearable. and they always knew. So when the rotation came back up and I was like, they just poured all their things out and I'd bring it in there. And it just kind of helped pull everyone together. And it was always just my thing that I kind of gravitated towards. And still to this day, that was the reason why we called it Absolute Bearing. It's because coffee drove us in that direction, and that's the way we're going. So
that's a kick-ass story. I like that. That's good shit.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So what are you guys doing out in the community? So I know, obviously, Irreverent Warriors aside, I know you guys are out and about doing stuff, because you're not a nonprofit. Obviously, you're retail, so you're for profit and all that stuff. Like, this is your livelihood. So what do you guys do out in the community aside from donate delicious coffee to the Silkies hike?
So we kind of took a turn last year. So the question to that is, we're giving back to our community in different ways, but we keep finding different ways so that we can do that. So one thing we do is we go to the Community Baptist Church. So we donate coffee there. We also sponsored the last person you had on your show. So Doc Muckle Husky. See, I served with him. That's why I know how to say his name. Is that how you pronounce it? It was my doc on Annapolis, because I remember when I showed up and I was like, that's a lot of consonants all smashed together. And so we donated last year to goats.
Okay.
Because we originally had started off and we had looked at this like, all right, we want to give back to the submarine community. So we made up like we understand the sacrifice that the maintainers and the builders of the submarine force, because they ultimately, with first strike capability, are our best way to hopefully win, right? And so they continue to build these machines and everyone continues to deploy on them. But what we kind of realized is that we wanted to be able to help more of our community that we live in, that we've lived in for the past 23 years, that we interact with, we buy stuff from. And frankly, the submarine retired community around here is not as like hoo-yah gung-ho behind entrepreneurs, right? And so we realized that we wanted to do it in a different way. So whether it be PTO that we donate to so that they can do a basket raffle, or we donate to the Irish Parade for the Mystic Irish Parade, which is, we walk right down the street for that. If there are other places, so like Community Speaks Out, so we do coffee for them when they have an event. We've done 2 events with them where we've done coffee with them. And we're trying to find more things kind of like the Silky Hike, right? Because last year when we looked at it, we're like, okay, we want to be able to do these things in our community, but a lot of these things are real big, right? And you kind of feel like, small ripple, right? And you're like, well, how do I make a bigger impact? And so that's why, so those are the things that we are doing inside of our community. My wife's been a teacher for, it seems like 2,000 years, but for 25 years at Westside Middle.
I let her hear that.
So we have that base as well, of people that we've been with in this community. And obviously we want them to buy our coffee because there's not many options. So that's what we're doing.
Cool. So all right, she's a teacher. So I'm and I know teachers and coffee are kind of they go hand in hand. So are you guys, does she promote you guys at the school and all that stuff, and then the teachers being big customers?
Yeah, I would say like when we first started off, half of our customers were teachers that Lisa worked with. So she'd be like going in with like bags of coffee to drop off to people. And that's been a very uplifting, like kind of like, because as you start off small and you're trying to figure out your way, right, you still need to make money. So they've definitely held up the bigger part of this whole thing, but also helped us spread our name and get it out to other people. We're collaborating with the Connecticut Education Association this year, because they have a website where they have all these different companies that provide discounts. We didn't know about it until Lisa reached out. She's been a CEA member since 1998. And so we're going to start working with them this year for shipping and all that kind of stuff for people to go order if they're a CEA member. So
Nice. And that'll be big for you guys, right? That's
I
a big
think so.
step.
We'll see. There's two events. They're both at Foxwoods for this summer. I think one in May and one in June. So that'll give us more exposure and just to other people in the area. Because really, what it comes down to is we just have to get it out to more people that were here, right? Because the internet and how the internet works, like with all the traffic and stuff like that, it's very hard to penetrate all of that, right? Unless you have a lot of money, you know exactly what you're looking for. So we're using that as another segue to get us into other places where we hadn't thought of before.
How can the community, the people that listen to this help to help get you out there? Because you're going to have people that hopefully all across the country are going to end up watching and learning about this. This veteran owned coffee company that sells delicious coffee. And so how can we help make you bigger and more known? How can we help you do that?
Yeah. So first thing is obviously buy coffee. Go to our website as it's going down the bottom. I'm being serious. So go buy that coffee, try it. We tell people all the time, right? Like we ship all over the United States to all sorts of people that we've either served with or someone else turned them on to them. And we appreciate all as they continue to do that kind of stuff. But buy the coffee and try it and then give us feedback, right? Because we send, so when you buy coffee from us, we send you automatically, tell us how the coffee was, rate us, tell us what's going on with that. We love the input because that's how we learn how we can become better, right? Yeah. Because we're roasting organic, fair trade, specialty coffee. So we're in the top 9 to 13% of all the green produced. Right now we've literally got 6,000 pounds of coffee that we got to roast. So that's the first part. The second part is share it with your friends. Like I have a friend of mine that I grew up with in high school. He's serving in Nepal right now. And so I will send him coffee as well. So we always find it funny that where he is, literally a bunch of the coffee that we have has literally gone around the entire globe and got back to him. And so my friend Greg, what he does is he'll take it and he'll go and share it with other people. And they'll give feedback. They'll say whether they liked it. It's a way to pull people together. It's a way to talk about hey, what's this coffee? What's this people's story? Oh, that's pretty cool. Let's support them and what they're doing. Because, we all know, right? There's big coffee companies out there that have done the same thing, but just in different, like you look at Black Rifle, right? They've done a great job of getting that community around them and supporting that. Yep. We're not nearly that large. Like we roasted 10,000 pounds last year. And we're super proud of that because that was, coming from what we were doing before to where we are now, it's like night and day. And so that's how people can help us is go to the website, order coffee. And then also, just get your friends involved, give us the feedback, give us the ratings that we're asking for so we can get that out to to everyone else. I mean, when you see our stuff, go like our page and go push it. That's because that's the easiest way it gets out there. So,
yep. Awesome. No, we'll when we start airing this and getting that out there, hopefully we'll be able to drum up some more business for you guys and help you guys help you guys out. That's that's what this whole thing is all about.
Yep.
So how did you guys get involved with Irreverent Warriors? What made you decide to be like, yeah, we want to be a sponsor of this organization for their hike each year? So talk to us about that.
So it's Uncle Husky's fault. Not kidding. So last year in February, I went out to there's a show on Facebook called The Blocks. So it's an entrepreneur startup game show. It's put on by Wes Bergman. So I went out there. It was during the Super Bowl. So we got to see Go Chiefs. We got to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. And then they essentially told us don't go outside because you probably get shot. So we stayed there, but went through that. I came back and we kind of changed direction. And we decided that we weren't going to do farmers markets because they just weren't. We needed to, kind of get ourselves online. But what I also said was I want us to be able to start to give back somehow because, we had success with the PTOs and those and that kind of stuff and fundraisers, excuse me. But what I also wanted was something so we'd gone through the submarine community and having a real hard time penetrating. Maybe it's just because we're used to going and hiding and no one find us. but like it was very hard to get other people to help, like not necessarily support, because we have a lot of people who are submariners who support us, but get us further out, right? Especially in this community where it's pretty saturated. And so I asked Doc, because I was like, hey, I want to donate to goats because I know what they did. And I was like, who else should I don't? What are some of your recommendations? He'd recommended Silky's Hide. And so that's when I was like, all right, let me go take a look at this. And I remember like I was looking at this and I was like, what is this? Like, I got to dress up and wear some like really short. What is happening? I was like, I don't know about this. Like, this doesn't, So I remember I was like, you know what? We gotta do something, and I want to do something. I was like, so that's when we reached out to you, and we donated. And so that's how we got involved. And I remember, like I was sitting there and I was like, I'm on the fence whether or not I was going to do the hike. And Lisa's like, why? I was like, I don't know. Like like my transition out of the military wasn't that great, right? And I isolated myself and all this kind of stuff. And I just decided, I was like, you know what? I was like, this looks like a fun time. Let's go. It's in Norwich. I mean, it's not that far. I don't have to drive a long distance to go do it. So I was like, I'm going to go do it. And I had a great time. And it was, I met a lot of people. And it wasn't until I was thinking yesterday about, like, I was like, so Irreverent Warriors. And I was like, so I know what it means, because I had to go look it up because I didn't know what Irreverent meant. I had to go look this up. So I looked up Irreverent Warriors and I was like, all right, I got it. We're going to use camaraderie, right? And so we're going to make fun of stuff that other people would find kind of dark and maybe kind of weird. And then you combine that with just other people. And I kind of realized, like, I think this is what I was missing, right? I was missing, like you said, like, I may be paraphrasing from your experience, but what you had said was like, that, you left your friends and you went off and you started to do like what you did, and you realized you missed just being with those people. Right. And that's what I missed, right? Like, I got out and the guys I knew in the Chiefs quarters, they continued to punch holes in the ocean and go on and go do stuff. And, and I did my thing, and you guys just you disappear. Right. And if you weren't hanging out with them before, then you're not going to start hanging out with them now. Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I realized was, I was like, that's what I'm missing. Right. Is I'm missing that connection with people that have the same ideas, that I do. And we were so happy to do it. We were so happy for the connections that we made. And we're happy to do it again this year. And it's just one of those things where I didn't really understand what it was. And then once I did, I was like, oh, well, this is better than like, it just seems like getting a bunch of people together, right? However we do it, even if it's just once a year, right, is great. And especially in this area, because Connecticut's not that big,
right.
That we can get everyone together and support each other. And that's when I realized, like, but part of it is I also have to make the effort to go to those, right? Connecticut's not that big, but it's still an hour and a half north. So I'm like, oh God, it's up in Hamden. Hamden is so far, So I realized, I was like, yeah, but you're part of the problem. I was like, yeah, I am. All right, I got it. So that's how we got involved with the River Warriors.
And it's glad to hear, you speak of that, that need, and even with the drive, because we're, at least here in Connecticut, we've really started to kind of turn and focus on to more community engagement, and just doing things out in the community. We've got the ambassador program that we started this year, that, and they're gonna start doing some amazing things here pretty soon as they get up and moving, and get more involved in their own communities. And we're hoping to have get-togethers every quarter, all over the state. Like you said, the state's not that big. And so we have an opportunity here to really be able to provide more opportunities, like the Silkies, like maybe not as big, because I mean that's the big ticket event, like that's our Super Bowl. But having other events throughout the state, and affording people opportunities other than just the one event every year, it kind of, I guess the easiest way to describe it is, you leave the Silkies, like you had a great time, right? And so your energy level from that is here. And now you got to wait for another year before you get that feeling again. And that's not like the mission doesn't end and begin just with the silky cycle. Like
Yeah,
the
great
mission,
point. Great point. Yep.
yeah, and it should be all year round. And so so we're as an organization, and especially in Connecticut, we're really working towards trying to improve upon that and provide stuff for everybody all year round. So hopefully
Well, it
you'll
wasn't.
get to look forward to that.
Yeah, and I hear all that. I think that's like when I was thinking about like a bunch of stuff while I was doing coffee, and I thought, you know what, like, so you had the guys on the boat who would go to the bar, right, or go hang out with their friends, and they would go do stuff, right. But we had kids pretty young, and like relatively, like we had by 23 we had my daughter, right, and my wife was teaching, and then so we had 3 more, and so if I wasn't underway, right, so like a 20-year career, you can look at it that somewhere around 14 years of that was spent like on a thing doing something, right, and so when I came home, it wasn't like, hey, babes, good to see you and the kids. I'm going to go to the bar and go hang out with I just spent 6 months with those you-know-whats, and I don't want to see their faces anymore, right? Even though I love them, right? But I wasn't that kind of person, and it wasn't that it was a bar. It was just like it wasn't going to do something else. And it wasn't until have you gone to the Falling Star Memorial?
No, I have not.
Okay. So at Goodwin College, so when I was going to Goodwin College, I went to Goodwin College. I graduated 2019, bachelor's degree in manufacturing management. So I did 3 years, used my GI Bill. If you have a GI Bill and you're not using it, you're effing up, right? That thing is amazing. I'm just telling you right now, service announcement, go use it. It's amazing. It literally paid for me to go to college. I had 4 kids at home. My wife was working, and we were able to pay all of our bills. So go use it, get it, whatever. Anyway, so manufacturing school, Goodwin, if you take Route 2 up to Hartford, it's on the left-hand side. Craig Jordan became the veteran coordinator there. And he was working with Senator Blumenthal because they wanted to. So the Falling Star Memorial is the star like you see like for the Yellow Star or Blue Star, but it's in the ground. And they made this giant memorial around it. Absolutely beautiful, right? And it gave me a connection to the state. It gave me a connection to like, oh, okay, like I'm part of this. Because like down here we do like it's important too, but we do the tolling of the bells for all the submarines lost during World War II. So if you have never seen that, it's pretty amazing, right? Saw what you guys did with where you went up with the Gold Star moms, right? I think like, and so I think it's a celebration of what we have in the state for us as veterans, right? For one, but 2, the sacrifices that people have made. But 3, it also just gives us time to like you said, not to do it once a year, but to have these other connections that we can do, right? A programmed way to do it. So I can be like, yep, I'm going to go help with that. I'm going to go help with, or I'm going to go to that because, I want to be able to go through that experience, right? And so I appreciate that the organization is doing that Irreverent Warriors in your organization is doing that and bringing it kind of more around because like with the Afghanistan, Iraq Memorial, right?
Yeah.
Like you think about it, right? Connecticut, like we paid our dues in blood of people, right? And so, it's got to be a way that you can go back and think about it, but also be like, those things did happen. It was for a long time. I'm glad I'm on this side of it. And what can I do to be better? Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well said.
Well, thank you.
So we've got the website down there, absolutebearing.coffee. You guys are on Facebook as Absolute Bearing Coffee Company. So we know that we can find you on social media. Are you guys on any other platforms that we
Instagram? We're Instagram and our Facebook are connected through Absolute Bearing Coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not on any of the other. Those 2 are enough. So I'll just
well, that's fair. Socially, if you and your other half are the only ones managing that, then yeah, that can be a lot if you guys are doing all kinds of different things on social media. So that makes sense. Um, so I guess last question, right? So your first hike was last year,
Yep.
and you didn't really know what to expect when participating in it, and you ended up having a great time.
I did.
What would you tell someone who listens to this interview and hears kind of like your story about how that was like you weren't really into want to do it and then you did it and had a great time? If they haven't really heard of Irreverent Warriors, or if they have heard of Irreverent Warriors but haven't really pulled the trigger to come out to an event or the Silkies Hike itself, what advice, what would you say to them to get them to come out to the Silkies Hike?
Hold that one thought.
Uh-oh, he disappeared on me. I don't know where he's going. I don't know what he's doing. I'm scared.
So this rubber chicken is on top of the chafe collector for the roaster, right?
Okay.
So I don't know but like when I came out, right, they were like, "Oh, is this your first hike?" Yeah. And I got handed a rubber chicken,
Yeah.
right? which I thought was like, "Oh, that's awesome." Like I want to spend more time with these people because they gave me this that I'm going to walk around with a whole bunch of other adults for however many hours, right? and just have a like. So there's that.
That's by the way, that's not to cut you off, but I'm clipping that. Like that's going to be the cover photo for the episode is me laughing at you holding that damn rubber chicken. That's sold. That's the cover picture. That's immediately you came back with that. I said yes, that's happening.
I just think, look, you know what? You can make it whatever thing you want it to be, but the bottom line is you're going to be with people that are coming at it from all sorts of different places. And really all they want to do is just go and hang out, right? And you can decide to drink. I didn't drink, right? I didn't drink the entire time. I had a great time. Ended up at the casino. It was and just went home.
Right.
But it just gave me time. Like it just gives you time to be with other people. It gives you time to go do something else maybe you haven't done in a while. Because like I did some hikes to get myself ready for it because I was like I haven't really walked this much. Just being able to be there, and I think the thing too, like and maybe you remember this, but like I remember we're walking across the street, and the Norwich police officers had left us, and we're going into the casino, right?
Yep.
So we cheered on you remember that guy that got out of his car, old guy that got out of his car and walked down the road and said, "Don't ever give up," right?
Yep.
And I'm looking at this dude and I'm like, all right, this is an older guy. And he's out there, saying, don't ever give up, right? Don't ever, right? Because we all know, right? That veteran suicide thing is a thing, right? That's a real thing. And it's happening, right? And you got this person and they connected to be like, don't give up, right? And I was like, that's the coolest thing right there, right? We have no idea if this guy's associated with the military or not. But a bunch of us, and I remember walking across, I remember someone's like, that's the coolest thing I've ever. Like, you're not going to, come on. You're wearing this getup, and you can make this getup. I mean, like your getup was absolutely, amazing. Kilt and everything. I'm just saying, you walk through anywhere wearing something like that. Because I remember, like, I'm leaving the casino, and I'm looking at all these people, like, what's wrong with that guy? And I'm like, you just don't know, man. You just don't.
you just don't know.
That's all I got. That's it. So it's gonna be a fun time. Come on, man. It's not that expensive. If you know that you can walk it, if you can't, get yourself kind of moving, right? There's a bunch of people that are all there. The support system that you have in place, and there's no other way to explain it. It's just, it's a really great time.
And to piggyback on the that guy that got out was yelling at us. It was because I remember him, like he got out of his car like in the middle of that intersection, and like we had traffic stopped anyway, so he wasn't really like being a safety hazard or anything like that to himself or anybody else. But it was like, yeah, him yelling at the top of his lungs, like there was passion behind his ranting about telling us don't ever quit. Like that was pretty damn epic. And I will always remember that. So I'm glad that you had mentioned that because that was, especially like at the end, like we're done. Like a lot of us we've only got like half a mile left to get to the casino, and then we're being air conditioning, we can relax. And then you got this guy over here yelling, "Don't you quit. Don't you ever quit." And we're all like, all of a sudden, like morale just like all of a sudden jumped, like, I ain't quitting, not with this guy yelling at me, and let's
Yeah,
get going,
exactly.
get
You
going.
know, and then you know, to give you like, and then to be able to get in the casino and do that chant, right, with all these people, right? Like that's important, right? That's
I
important.
blacked out.
That
I said I blacked out. Like the third, when I yelled the mission, like the third,
yeah,
going for that third time,
yeah.
and like my eyes glazed over. Like I did that all just like, I don't know what happened. Like I think I was just tired to the point where I'm just yelling things now.
Yeah.
And so we did that third time because I saw like when we yelled that the first time, like the casino was like, what the hell is going on right now?
Yes.
So people kind of were peeking. And then the second time, you guys saw people up on the balconies from the restaurants and they're coming by, like, what is happening right now? And then it was like, no, we got to do this one more time. They got to know we're bringing this roof down. And yeah, and so when I started yelling at that third time, I just like, I lost eyesight for a minute there. I was like, I think I was just done. I just remember just kind of blacking out, waking up, and like, oh, we mission. Did I mess it up?
It was great, man. It was great. It was a perfect location. It was awesome. You know, so
I'm hoping they'll let us do that again this year. Hopefully we didn't. I haven't asked yet, but hopefully we weren't too much of a terror for the casino goers, because I know that was a 10 out of 10 for shock value. I promise.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which was the point. So a quick story on that. The reason why that came to be was because the hike previously. So Tyler, who's one of our volunteers, he drives one of the vehicles for us, and he's a huge supporter of Warriors. He's not a veteran, but he absolutely, like, we've adopted him. Like he's
I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, so he works at the casino, right? And so he was asking people that work the bars and some of the restaurants and some of the vending places throughout the casino, like what they remember from the Silkies hike. Like, and they were like, what are you talking about? The only thing people remembered from the Silkies hike were the dames, because they were in their polka dot dress and they were guiding us to tell us where to go. And I think it's because we were taking a lot of the side routes through the casino, so we weren't really like front and center. And I said, no. I said, granted, yes. So I love the dames and I love everything they do, but I was like, that will not stand. So there, how do you miss 150 dudes and women run around in
yes, wearing silkies and all sorts of other ridiculous outfits? How do you miss them? Yeah,
right. And so I was like, no, we're changing that. And I said, so we need to stop in the middle of the casino. Like, where's a spot that we can stop? And they were like, they were right there. And so they agreed to it. I don't know if you saw, but there were security guys in suits that were hanging out on the fringes of this whole thing, making sure that we could set up there. So they gave us good treatment. So so we had to do that. Like, we had to make sure that everybody knew in the casino what the heck was going on, who we were.
Yeah.
So hopefully they allow us.
I think, you know what, man, and I think just to kind of add on to that, we do events at Kitsch at Old Mystic Village where we give away coffee for free for samples. You know, so he's like, hey, here's a coffee, that kind of stuff. Every single time we go to these things, and every single time we go to events, we meet people. We always meet veterans, right? Like I met one 2 weeks ago. She was in the Army for 36 months, blah, 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 blah. She's going to school, right? But you make that connection, right? And it's important because, right, for the amount of time that we were at war and now we come off of it, like we're just gonna blend in, right? And part of it is, and it's not that we shouldn't, right? But it's also that there's a whole bunch of other veterans out there that have all blended in, right? That we want to, like, let's just go talk about what you did and this. And not only is it what you did, but then just the connections of like, oh, I never thought to do that, right? Oh, I never thought to do, like, and that's why it's important, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, and then because of course people that are there, like once you tell them, they're like, oh yeah, my Uncle Frankie, or like you have, like, it's the casino. You have people coming from all over the place, right? And ready-made people just be like, yeah, let's do this. So I think we got to somehow, man. You just got to be able to pull that off again.
Yeah, no, hopefully I don't think it'll be a problem. But I definitely have to reach out and see if they'll let us do that again, because that was, like I said, that was a great way to end the day, was to come together as a group and then be able to basically just announce to the entire world at that point, from what it seemed like, who we were and what we were doing. So
yep.
Oh, man. Well, I think that about wraps it up, man. I want to thank you and your wife Lisa for not only what you guys have done for coffee and trying to bring coffee to the world, but what you guys have done out in the community. It's absolutely awesome to see and even and hear about. Like I said, because I didn't really know that you know what you do outside of Silky's hike and just being a retail. So hearing some of the stuff that you and Lisa do out in the community is awesome, and I commend you for that, because it's not an easy task, going out and trying to be front and center and doing all that stuff for for your company and everything, which is again kind of your
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think when you spend 20 years, right? You spend 20 years, you kind of learn how to be a salesman, but like not like this. So there's a lot of learning on the fly that you do, and that's okay, right? You just say, oh, okay, we'll try that next time. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and hopefully people that listen to this will flood to the website, and we'll share this all over the place, and get people ordering coffee and contributing to that, and getting hooked. We're gonna have people that have never had coffee ever, like, we want to buy this man's coffee because he had a rubber chicken, and now we're gonna get people hooked on coffee because this dude had a rubber chicken and it was hilarious. And so that's the goal. That's what we're doing.
You cracked me up, Eric, man. I appreciate all those words.
Absolutely, man. It's or that's what the whole purpose of this whole thing is trying to just unity, and help promote one another. But that's about it, man. That's where you have it. We want to, again, I really want to thank you for taking the time, for coming on, repping your company, Absolute Bearing, to be with us and take some time out of your day. We really, really appreciate it, and we appreciate everything you guys have done for the community.
Yep, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for everybody else, thank you to our listeners for hanging out with us this evening and checking all this stuff out. Be sure to share this episode far and wide so we can get that man to make us coffee. And so we can also bring a little bit of humor, camaraderie to anyone who might listen. Until then, stay irreverent, my friends.